Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today's video is about planting your cool weather crops for the fall now, while it's still warm. It's the last week of July. I'm going to show you how to plant carrots, beets, peas, and radishes directly into the soil. And before we get to that, some of the basic things I'm using is that's a bag of any organic fertilizer that's on sale is fine. Throwing in some clay soil I dug up from other places that has a lot of trace and micronutrients, and I'm going to be using cocoa coir to loosen up the soil because I had carrots in this space before and they got a little bit twisted because the soil just wasn't fluffy enough. And if you look around real quick, I've been tearing out leaves of cucumbers and squash, opening them up for better airflow, and just pruning back my warm weather crops. And as I was doing that, I cleared out this space. This is the space we're going to be planting in. I grew carrots and beets in here and peas. That is a rhubarb plant that's going to stay. And then I might even drop in some cilantro. So I'll show you how I amend this soil up, make it a little bit better for the plants. But a couple things to keep in mind. When it is January, February, March, and you're getting your cool weather crops ready to go outside, you're starting them indoors in containers, small cells, little pint containers, because the soil is way too cold to really get the seeds germinated, so you do them inside. When it's the middle of summer, the soil is really warm, you can direct sow your cool weather crops, and they're going to sprout really fast. So you do want to keep a journal, kind of put down the dates that you start them, because you want to make sure you don't start them too early and the heat messes them up, or you don't start them too late and they run into like hard frosts and don't fully mature. It's all about timing. So you need about 60 to 75 days of more growing season to grow your cool weather crops, but don't, hold me to that. Take notes, jot down the dates, and we're also going to plant these now. I think today is July 22nd, and I'm going to do another wave of the same plants maybe 2 weeks later. And that way, if I'm too early, the plants that come 2 weeks later will help out. So let's get to setting up the soil. So obviously just weed out the soil, or weed out the garden space. I pre-moisten this. I put some water in there because it's been so hot. I wanted the water to soak in overnight, just kind of cool the soil off, loosen it up a little bit. This is really compacted soil. You could, prep your garden in many ways. We could put down compost. I'm still working on mine, but this is the best way to do it because most of us don't have a lot of compost. Handful of any organic fertilizer and just scatter it around. We're going to work it into the ground, not a crazy amount, but just enough that you know that you're putting it in there. And as we loosen this up, it will get turned under. Everything will get watered in with a fish emulsion either today or in a week or two after it sprouts. That's the basics that I use for putting the fertilizer in. Over on the right side, we're going to put in carrots. So I'm going to use a lot of that cocoa coir to really loosen it to a depth of 12 inches. And then I'm going to also put coir down across here because the soil is not holding water so well. The coir will hold water. It doesn't add a lot of nutritional value, and I'll probably work that into the top 6 inches of the soil. Let me put the coir down now. So the left side has about ½ an inch to an inch of the cocoa coir, and on the right side it's a good 3 inches, maybe a little more, of cocoa coir and peat moss. Right out of the cocoa coir, but you could use just peat moss, you could use cocoa coir, combination of both. If you have some great compost, you could be doing the same thing with compost, which is what I recommend. It's always just hard to get a great supply. Hopefully next year I have tons of it. So now that this is down, we have the fertilizer down, I'm just going to mix this area in about 4 inches, just 6 inches, something like that. Just mix it up well so that it loosens up and holds water. I'm going to turn this down to about 12 inches. I'm not going to show you that, but really mix it in together well so that when you get in close, you can see that the coir and the earth soils all mixed through there. I'm also going to dump that container, that 5-gallon container of the clay soil across here just to add the micronutrients, trace elements. All right, so a quick 20 or 30 minutes of work turns this raised bed space into kind of a beautiful canvas to start planting. Now, right side is carrots. You can see I even found some. If you check out my harvest videos, the 3 videos from this year, you'll see everything that I pulled out of this space. If you're leaving a plant in place, make sure you give it about 12 inches away from the main stem. Don't turn that over because you'll damage the root, so give it a good 1 foot space. But everything is ready. And what I do is seeds don't really care. you know, if they're 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch deep. Peas need to go deeper, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. I just do basic finger holes. This is where the beets are going to go. And give them, I don't know what that is, 2 inches everywhere. I like my beets to get about 4 inches across. That's enough space. And that would set up the whole row for beets. I'll probably do 3. Peas I'm going to put right back there, a single row, 1 inch deep. Sometimes I just drop the peas down, push them down 1 inch with my finger. But I'm going to do every inch, actually, pack them in a little bit in there. So we'll have beets right through here, peas over there, and then I'll put the carrots in. I'll set up the holes, talk about those. On the left side I'll probably put some radishes, maybe a row of radishes right through there. Let me set up the space for planting seeds. So this is how I like to set up my beds for direct sowing. It's basically called the finger hole method. Just put in finger holes where the seeds are going to go. The bigger seeds can go deeper, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Smaller seeds, 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. The seeds are really going to work it out. You don't have to over worry about it if your soil is nice and loose. So the carrots are going to go over here. There's about 60 to 70 holes. It's a lot of carrots. Across the back are the peas. That hole is about 1 inch deep, and there's what, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 peas back there. Going to have radishes along that row, those 2 rows back there, and all the way over in the side, that's about 50 radishes. And then the beets are going to go right here along the front. I'll drop the seeds in, show you how to cover it up. It's not too exciting, and then we'll water it in. I'm also going to be planting other cool weather crops. If you want to subscribe, we're going to do turnips, kale, broccoli, cauliflower. Broccoli, cauliflower, they're bigger plants. Cabbages are bigger plants. You can start them in small pint containers or seed cells now, because sometimes, like if you look into my garden, you don't have the room for those. So you can let them grow and get a good to a good size, and then as your other plants die off, you can drop them into the ground. If you have the open space, you can put the seeds in directly. I'll show you how to direct sow. This is what this series is about. All right, let me get these seeds in, and then we will water them in. All right, so this is round 1 of my direct sowing for the cool weather crops in the middle of summer. Carrots, I'm doing little fingers, and I put in 2 seeds per hole. You're going to thin them down to 1 plant when they come up. Carrots can take a long time to germinate when the soil's cooler, but they should pop up pretty quickly now that we're, you know, in the middle of summer and we have really warm soil. Along the back, did some purple potted peas. They're shelling type. And I did 1 seed per hole, and then every other hole I put in 2 seeds. And I've never done that before, I just decided to do that. These are the sugar snaps. You can eat the pods and the peas, and that will be plenty of peas crawling, trellising up the fence. You're going to need trellising wherever you put your peas, so you might put in a bunch of the sticks like right there, through there, maybe 4 or 5 if you didn't have a fence, and they would latch onto there. Across the back, or across the middle actually, there are 2 seeds of radishes in there. Thin them down to 1. I'll be doing videos on taking care of all these. But I got radishes through there, radishes over in the corner, and then I have cylindrical beets on the right and the Detroit red beets on the left. I do sell a lot of these seeds at my seed shop if you want to check it out at therustedgarden.com. I wanted to show you the beet seeds. Beet seeds are actually pods. So you want to get the plump ones, a nice big size like that. And they have multiple beet seeds in there. So again, you're going to drop 1 pod, 1 beet pod, beet seed into there, but multiple plants are going to come up, and you will thin them down too. But this is how easy it is to really plant about 170 plants. If only half come up, you're still going to have a great harvest. So I encourage you to direct sow now for your cool weather crops. And then we're going to do more plants, if you want to subscribe, as I said, in a week or so, something different. And then like in every 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be putting in more radishes so that I get a continued harvest. You don't want to put in like 500 radishes at once and you got 500 to eat in a couple of days. That's just too many. So all I do is come in and smooth it over. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to water these in. I'm not going to add any fish emulsion. For radishes, I recommend not giving them any other fertilizer because they grow a lot of leaves. But they just don't need it now, so we're going to water them in well and finish up the video. So I think that's beautiful. I love looking at, you know, loose brown soil for whatever reason. Hopefully you can appreciate it, but I can see what's going to come out of there. Now, because it's the middle of summer, the tops of the the soil of your earth can get up to 90, 100 degrees or hotter. That's pretty hot. Once these germinate, because they're cool weather crops, I'm going to lay some ag fabric or shade cloth over it. But you want them to germinate into the sun. But once they do, you can put a bit of shade cloth across. That'll keep the soil temperatures cool, and it'll do a little bit better. Cooler soil is better for your cool weather crops. And at this point, I am just going to water in the entire space. You're going to want to water in this heat maybe every day. You don't want the tops to dry out, the top of the soil that is, to dry out. Every other day. You just want to water more often than you might think to help them get established. And then once they're established, the shade cloth can help. You can water a little less frequently, but you get the idea. It's a good idea to start your cool weather crops now. Maybe you're a little bit too early, maybe you're a little bit too late for certain varieties, but keep a journal, track when you start them, see how they finish, and then next year you'll be able to kind of zero in on the date to start them. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.